A driver with a fractured wrist just qualified for one of the hardest street courses NASCAR has ever built. And his team had a backup plan ready, just in case his body couldn't finish the job. Let's not sugarcoat this. Christopher Bell should not have been able to drive a race car this month. But he did, and now he's doing it again on a track nobody has ever raced before. The spotter sees everything. And today, we're talking about one of the most physically demanding stories in NASCAR, right? Now, Christopher Bell, a broken wrist, and a weekend that might force him to give up his own car. Stay with me, because this is where it gets interesting. Let's go back 2 weeks. Because to understand what Bell is dealing with this weekend, you need to understand what happened to him at Michigan. Christopher Bell drives the No. 20 Toyota for Joe Gibbs Racing. He's one of the best road course and short track drivers in the entire Cup Series. A championship contender, a 4-time Cup Series winner, a guy who shows up every single weekend expected to compete for the win on June 7th at Michigan International Speedway that all change in a single moment. Lap 148 of the Firekeepers Casino 400, Bell was racing side by side with Chase Elliott for second place, right behind William Byron. Elliott got loose to Bell's inside, and in an instant, Bell's car was sent careening into the outside wall in turns 3 and 4. The hit was brutal. NASCAR's data confirmed it was the highest recorded Delta V measurement of the entire next-gen era. That's the most violent impact recorded since this car was introduced back in 2022. Bell himself said the crash registered 63 GS. For comparison, that's more force than almost any other impact recorded in recent NASCAR history. He described the moment in detail afterward. He was still holding the wheel, hands turned left, when the impact drove his bent left wrist straight into the steering wheel. He knew immediately something was broken. He, Barfoni, couldn't even disconnect his own safety harness with his left hand. He had to reach across with his right hand just to get out of the car. And then he saw fire coming from the vehicle. Bell walked away under his own power, no head injury, no blackout, just a fractured left wrist and a bruised foot. Given the violence of that crash, that outcome is something even Bell himself called immaculate. Now here's where the story gets even more remarkable. Joe Gibbs Racing confirmed the fracture 2 days after the crash. And in that same announcement, they confirmed Bell was medically cleared to race. No surgery required under normal circumstances. A break like this takes about 6 weeks to heal. Bell didn't have 6 weeks. He had 6 days before the next race at Pocono, so his team got to work. They modified his steering wheel, shaving down the left side to accommodate his cast. They moved several in-car controls over to the right side of the cockpit. Bell had to relearn how to operate his own race car, primarily right-handed. He said it himself, it was going to take a lot of acclimation. And at Pocono, Bell did it. He completed the full 400 miles with a fractured wrist, just 6 days removed from the hardest crash recorded in the next-gen era. That alone would be a remarkable story. But it's not where this story ends. Now let's talk about this weekend. NASCAR is racing for the first time ever at Naval Base Coronado in San Diego. A brand new 3-4 mile, 16-turn street course. Tight corners, mixed surfaces, blind sections everywhere. A track that every single driver in the field is seeing for the very first time. Drivers across the garage have used one word over and over again to describe its survival. This is already one of the most physically demanding tracks on the entire schedule. Constant braking, constant steering input, heavy G-forces through every single corner. Now picture doing that with a wrist that's still healing from a fracture. Going into the weekend, Joe Gibbs Racing had to make a decision most teams never have to consider. Would Bell be physically able to handle 75 laps of one of the most punishing street courses NASCAR has ever raced? The team's contingency plan was simple but serious. If Bell couldn't continue, substitute driver Brent Crews would take over the No. 20 car mid-race. This wasn't a hypothetical floating around the garage. It was an actual game-time decision the team had to be prepared to make. And Crews wasn't some random call-up. He had already proven he belonged in that car. In Saturday's O'Reilly Auto Parts Series race at the very same circuit, Crews claimed pole position with a lap that was actually faster than Shane Van Gisbergen's Cup Series pole winning time. Think about that. A backup driver stepping in for an injured champion caliber talent had already shown he could be faster than the Cup Series favorite on the exact same track. Bell still went out and qualified the No. 20 car himself. On Saturday, he posted a lap good for 37th on the 39 car grid. Not his best result. But considering everything his body had been through over the past 2 weeks, he was in the car, he was qualified, he was ready to go. Now let's talk about why this particular track made the decision so much harder. Naval Base Coronado isn't just new, it's brutal. 16 turns packed into 3.4 miles. Drivers brace for chaos because every single corner presents something they've never seen in competition before. Even Shane Van Gisbergen, the betting favorite and one of the best road course drivers in the world, bounced off the wall twice during his own qualifying lap. If the best road racer in the field is hitting walls just trying to find the limit, think about what that track demands from a driver working with one good hand. Every hard brake, every quick direction change, every wheel input through those tight blind corners, all of it puts direct stress on exactly the part of Bell's body that's still healing. This is the kind of physical test that goes far beyond a typical race weekend. Now here's the spotter's take. What Christopher Bell has done over the past 2 weeks is something most people will never fully appreciate. He survived the hardest recorded impact of the next-gen era. He came back 6 days later and completed a full 400-mile race at Pocono with a fractured wrist. And now he's strapping into a car for the most physically demanding new track NASCAR has ever built. Still, not fully healed, that's not just toughness, that's a different level of commitment to this sport. But here's the uncomfortable truth underneath all of it. A driver should never have to push through an injury this serious just to stay competitive. The fact that Joe Gibbs Racing needed an actual contingency plan with a backup driver on standby tells you everything about how serious this situation really is. Bell wants to compete. That's admirable. But there is a difference between toughness and risking further injury on a track this unforgiving. If Bell struggles physically during the race, the right call is the team pulling him and putting Crews in the car. Not because Bell lacks heart. He's already proven he has more of that than almost anyone in the garage. But because no result, no points, no finish is worth permanent damage to a driver's career. This weekend will tell us a lot. Not just about who wins at Naval Base Coronado, but about how far a driver is willing to push his own body and whether his team is willing to pull the plug if it's not enough. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Should Christopher Bell even be in that car this weekend? Or is this exactly the kind of grit that makes this sport what it is? If you're following this story, make sure you're subscribed because the spotter will have the full update on how Bell's race actually goes. Hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on that notification bell because the spotter sees everything. And Christopher Bell's toughest test yet is still unfolding.